You're listening to Chill Chat, the weekly Chinese language learning podcast that breaks down vocabulary and grammar and provides listening practice through natural conversations about culture, trends, and other useful topics.
Each episode is accompanied by transcripts, so you can follow along with us. Members also have access to weekly guided readings and weekly grammar lessons. Additionally, if you would like to have personalized, one-on-one instruction from Karen, you can book a lesson on italki.
To check out free samples or book a lesson, find the links in the description. 我是 Karen，
我是百威 We are broadcasting from Houston, Texas.
今天的播客是一集你问我答的播客。
哇，
所以我们会回答 Chill Chat 听众给我们的问题。这些问题，有的问题是针对我们个人的问题，有的问题是关于学习汉语的问题。所以今天我们都会在这集播客里回答。
我害怕。
别害怕。如果是问我的问题，我会用中文回答。如果是问百威的，百威可以选择用中文或者英文来回答。
好的。
好，如果大家有什么听不懂的地方，那就看我们的播客文稿，好吗？
好的。
好，今天的问题都非常有意思，我们先来看第一个，是来自Gilly. She asks, I'd like to know more about good songs or TV shows on YouTube for Chinese language learners. So that's her first question. 好，这个我先让百威来回答吧。百威，你有没有什么中文歌或者中文电视剧推荐？
我真没有，我大部分看 YouTube 看英文的。
你有没有看过中国电视剧？
电视剧没有，但是我看过很多中国电影。
你有没有推荐？
让子弹飞一会儿啊，知道这个电影吗？我觉得这个电影特别好看。
对对对，让子弹飞，是一部喜剧吧，搞笑的电影。
对对，很搞笑的吧？
很搞笑，很奇怪的电影。
对，
很无厘头的电影。如果你听了我最近一集全中文的播客，你就知道无厘头是什么意思。无厘头就是很奇怪，很搞笑的电影。好，让子弹飞，还有吗？
还有，我也喜欢看武侠的电影，知道吧？比如卧虎藏龙，还有英雄。
对，所以这个其实挺难推荐的，因为要看你喜欢什么电影。如果你喜欢武侠，我们推荐英雄、卧虎藏龙。如果你喜欢无厘头的搞笑电影，我们推荐让子弹飞。还有喜剧之王，也是一个搞笑的电影。如果你喜欢生活的电影，我有一个推荐是我不是药神，这是一个生活电影，叫我不是药神。是关于生病，人生病，他们去买药，然后买不到药的故事。
生活电影是什么？
是关于人生活的故事。电视剧的话，我有一些推荐，但是大部分都是生活的电视剧。好，我的推荐是《家有儿女》，这个是很老的电视剧了。30而已是最近几年的电视剧，是生活爱情电视剧。还有，如果你喜欢历史，你可以去看大明王朝1566， 这个是历史的电视剧。
这个是我们俩看过这个吗？
可能看过。是关于明朝的一个皇帝的故事。
对。
对，非常非常经典的历史电视剧，大家可以去看。然后中文歌的话，也是要看你喜欢什么样的歌，但是大部分的中文歌都是比较慢的，比较抒情的歌，所以我可以推荐一些中文歌手，我觉得他们的歌可能比较容易听懂，他们说话唱歌的时候比较清楚。好，那男歌手我推荐张杰，知不知道张杰？
不知道。
毛不易知道？
不知道。
宋冬野？
宋冬野我知道。
宋冬野。对，你有没有推荐宋冬野的歌？你觉得
推荐
什么歌？
安河桥。
安河桥不错。对，还有女歌手的话，我推荐邓紫棋。你知不知道邓紫棋？我
不知道。
不知道。对，她的英文名叫 Gem， 香港歌手。但是她的歌都是中文的，普通话的。还有蔡健雅。蔡健雅是新加坡的歌手 Tanya Tra。大家可以去听她的歌。还有一个是孙燕姿。孙燕姿也是新加坡的歌手 Stephanie 孙。对，他们的歌都比较慢，比较清楚。大家可以去 YouTube 上找孙燕姿的歌，然后你去听，因为我也不知道你喜欢哪首歌，所以你要自己去听才知道你喜欢什么。
什么歌手唱外面的世界？
我不记得了，我看一下。
外面的世界是很好听的歌。
外面的世界是齐秦的歌。说到看电视剧学中文呢，有一个 Chrome extension 非常好用，叫 Learn Languages with Netflix and YouTube。对，这个 extension 可以让你学习这个视频的字幕。YouTube 上找一下 Learn Languages with Netflix and YouTube Review， 还有 Tutorial， 可以去看一下。好，
听起来好用。
是的，我非常推荐这个方法，我很推荐用歌或者电影电视剧来学中文。好，第二个问题是 Why you chose the names you did, Karen and 百威。好，我先回答吧。没有原因。
对，
我选择 Karen 就是因为什么我忘了，因为我觉得好听。That was before I knew about the meme。 这个是我为什么选择 Karen 这个名字的原因。你呢？
I'll need to use English to describe this one. So the choice of my name came from a combination of things. The fact that it's a B, because my last name starts with a B. The meaning of the second character. And also the fact that the name has a bit of a double meaning, which is kind of funny. The second character I just think is a really cool Chinese character because it means protector, and it also looks really cool the way it's written. And it's a very masculine sort of name. Bai Wei is also the exact way you pronounce Budweiser, the beer. But it's not the same character. So mostly because of the B from my last name, Bai, which means cypress tree. And Wei, which is just a cool character.
And one character in my mom's name is also Bai.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And my uncle's name.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of runs in the family.
There you go.
It's also a very catchy name. When you say Bai Wei, people would think of the beer, and so they will remember it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, when Chinese people ask me my name and I say Bai Wei, they often laugh. And so, like the beer, it's like, oh, no. 不是这个白，是 what do I say? Oh, 是柏树的柏，
对
right? The cypress tree.
好，第三个问题是 What are some common misconceptions that English speakers have of Chinese culture and vice versa?
Well, I think there's an issue with the way that most Western media depicts China, or the way China is depicted in most Western media. I think causes a lot of people, not everyone, of course, but a lot of people to perceive China as, because the U.S. is a democracy, Americans will tend to think of any country that's not a democracy as kind of a North Korea-like place, and China's not that. Although there are some very impoverished areas in the rural part of the country, there are actually some extremely well-developed and high standard of living cities in China.
Is that your impression when you first arrived in Shenzhen?
I was surprised at how advanced Shenzhen was.
In 2016.
Yes. But I also knew that China was not like a very, very underdeveloped country. Yeah. And I think another misconception, especially that Americans have, is like it's hard to imagine anyone who doesn't like democracy. But Chinese people in general are pretty satisfied with their government. The vast majority of Chinese people, not all, but so that's something that I think a lot of Americans might be surprised by. Yeah.
Okay. I read some other misconceptions online, and I'll ask you if they're true.
好的.
True meaning if you have had those misconceptions, or you think Americans have those misconceptions towards Chinese people.
Okay.
Chinese people are good at math.
Yes, Americans tend to have that perception, and here's why. Because the Chinese people that end up going to university in the U.S. are usually engineers and scientists who are very good at math. So they have a sort of selection bias. Most of the Chinese people they've met are there because they're really good at some technical subject, and that's why they're in the U.S. So I think that's why that perception exists, because it's partly true.
Okay. Chinese people are always eating rice.
That one, yes, a lot of people have that perception, and yes, it's 100% true.
Yes, I'm always eating rice. I just love the taste of it.
And I eat rice a lot more now that I live in China.
Okay, 好. And finally, she asks, I love some 成语. I'd love to learn a few new fun ones and hear their origins. OK, 好，那因为时间的关系，我就来讲一个成语吧。
好。
成语是4个字的中文词。好，我不讲人山人海了，大家都知道人山人海什么意思哈？人山人海，知道吧？
人山人海 is that people, mountain, people, sea?
对呀。
Okay, what does it mean?
这个你知道吗？
我不知道。
好的，这个的意思就是很多很多人。
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
好，那第二个成语是七上八下。
七上八下。
七上八下。这个词的意思是你很紧张， 你的心上上下下。比如明天我要考试了，我心里七上八下的，就是我很紧张。
好，
或者明天我要第一次见 Karen 的爸爸妈妈，我心里七上八下的。这样子用。
好，明白了。
好，我们来看第二个听众 Yasmin。好，他有2个问题。Since most of the questions are written in English, I'm going to read the original question in English. Firstly, she says, I'd like to ask you, Karen, how has your life changed ever since you moved to the US? What's the main difference between Chinese and American people in terms of how you get treated? And if you could bring one element from your life in China to the US, what would it be?
Oh, I think I know your answer, but go ahead.
OK, 好。我的生活，我觉得没有很大的变化。有一个很大的变化，就是我们需要每天都开车。
对，
我们需要开车。
对，
在深圳的话，我不用开车。我可以走路，或者我可以坐地铁。
对。
但是别的有很多不一样，但是都是小的不一样。比如美国的楼长得不一样，或者看医生的方法不一样，等等小的区别。我不知道是不是在美国所有地方都是这样，但是在德克萨斯呢，我觉得人都很好。对，会帮你开门，如果你不认识，你们也会打招呼。我这个让我很惊讶，因为在中国，如果你不认识，你在走路，你不会打招呼的。
但是在德克萨斯你没有必须要打招呼，但是有很多人做。对，
我觉得人都特别热情，特别友好。我不是说中国人不友好，我只是说在中国没有这个习惯。对，我觉得总体来说，我特别喜欢德克萨斯人和人之间的相处方式。
我喜欢你说德克萨斯，你没有说美国，因为美国是很大的地方，所以别的地方在美国很不一样，对不对？
我不知道啊，因为我没有去过别的地方。我去过 LA 机场LA 机场太差了。
还有 Arkansas、Oklahoma， come on。Arkansas
很棒，Oklahoma 很棒，LA 的机场 two thumbs down 对，好
I agree。
然后第3个问题是，如果我可以从中国带到美国一个方面或者一个东西，我会带什么？
食物，
对，我会带食物，我会带费大厨
对，
还有一个那个什么来着，陕西的一个饭店叫啥来着？
对，
老晚会，还有中国深圳有很多小的咖啡店，我觉得很好。你不觉得吗？
我觉得在这边也有。
好吧。好，食物，对，我一定会，我希望能把中国的食物带到美国来。好的，然后他的第2个问题是关于学习中文的。I'm currently at an HSK4 level. My reading and listening are decent. However, every time I try to speak to a native Chinese speaker, I feel blocked, as if I cannot access the language or produce the right words. 这个我想问一下百威，你在学中文的时候有没有这个经历？
有时候Yasmin 的 HSK 水平比我高，所以我不可以给他建议。但是我觉得 if I could give you some advice, Yasmin, I would say be okay with being a clown. In other words, just try to say it, and even if it's wrong, and be okay if they laugh at you, because they'll probably actually think it's kind of funny, but not in a demeaning way. I've found.
I agree. And if it's hard for you to speak to new people or strangers, which I understand, it can be very intimidating, and feeling nervous can make you feel you're blocked. You can't access the language. Start with a teacher or a language partner and establish a relationship with that person. Once you are familiar with that person, gradually you can produce. Starting with the teacher is going to be easier because the teacher will be more patient, will know your level, will try to understand what you're saying. And once you are comfortable speaking with one person, try practicing with another new person. And that's my advice.
Yeah, you and I were actually talking about this yesterday, not on the podcast, and you were talking about the purpose of having a Chinese teacher is probably only like 10-20% to actually teach you the words and grammar, especially at HSK level 4. I mean, the purpose of a teacher is not necessarily to teach you new ways of speaking, but to just have someone to speak with.
Right.
So you just get that practice. Yeah.
And another thing that I do with speaking English is I often imagine a scenario in my head. It can be a real life scenario or from a movie, something fictional. Imagine myself as a character in the dialogue, and I'll actually speak out loud. Let's say I'm feeling nervous about calling my doctor on the phone. I would actually practice what I'm going to say by saying it out loud. So that's something you can do if you don't have a language partner at the moment.
That's great advice.
好，我们继续看下一个。Scott asks, is there a good resource for books at various vocabulary levels? He wants to find something with vocabulary more useful in daily life.
Can I just read the rest of what he's saying? Because I find it just kind of funny. He says, I've been reading the Pepper and Wong version of Journey to the West. That's a great choice. The background vocabulary is at my level, but the specialized words I'm learning are all about monsters, hell, magic, wheels of life, and such.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, those are words you're not going to use that much in everyday conversation.
It's hard with books because books are pretty specialized in one topic. It's hard to learn daily colloquial vocab from books. Children's books are going to be using more simple language, probably a bit more colloquial. If you really want to learn daily colloquial Chinese, watch TV shows. That's the best way.
Yeah, and also consider something like Chairman's Bow, or obviously the Chill Chat guided reading. As far as articles, I guess maybe he's looking for full length books, but I find that reading short articles about daily topics like news, like Chairman's Bow has a lot of news stories. That's a great way to learn everyday Chinese, I think.
Here's another source if you're looking for news. Try BBC 中文 the YouTube.
Oh, there you go.
YouTube channel BBC 中文. Sometimes their videos are very short, usually no longer than 5 minutes. In the video, you'll find some interviews with Chinese people, and those interviews are pretty short.
And their dialogue, which brings me to another advice. This is not something I've done personally, but I have a friend who's a very good Chinese speaker who said that he likes to read Chinese comic books. And comic books can be a great source because they're mostly conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. And if you are watching YouTube channels to learn Chinese, utilize that Google Chrome extension I mentioned, learn languages with YouTube and Netflix. Can help you if you encounter some difficult words. 好, he also wants to know what are some pen pal opportunities with Chinese people. Do a kind of a language exchange.
Yeah, and he's asking specifically about sports. And I think there's no substitute for actually going and playing the sport if you're living in China, because then you'll learn all the terms of the sport while actually doing it, and that kind of stuff really sticks with you. If you're not living in China, maybe
That's tough.
Yeah, maybe try to find sports articles on Chairman's Bow or something, I guess.
You can find a language partner on italki.com. I know they do have a platform for that. And honestly, you just gotta talk to people and find out who shares your interest. And then you can strike a deal, do a language exchange every week, twice a week, English and Chinese. So try that, italki.com. 好，下一个问题。下一个问题是 David 的问题，他说 Do you both speak English at home or do you code switch between it and Chinese? 好，我们先回答这个问题吧。在家里我们大部分是说英文的。对。And then he asks, I'm wondering how Baiwei's Chinese level will go now that he is not immersed in it.
Down. Except for doing this podcast. This podcast is keeping it alive.
You don't need immersion to learn language, but you do need resources. So let's say if you are in America, you are not immersed in Chinese. Try listening to more Chinese. Try finding a Chinese teacher, Chinese friends, Chinese language partners who can talk to you. You can actually spend a lot of time speaking Chinese, even if you're not in China. So I think that's the key to it. Create the immersion you need.
对。
好的。Amy asks, Karen, what are your thoughts on the move to Texas? Any culture shock? They're very kind. Texans are very kind. That's one shock, actually. And another culture shock is how ridiculously tall their trucks are. Just everybody drives a huge lifted truck. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and loud too. That's the shock part.
And then they come down they come out from the car and they say, "Oh, hi, how are you?" They're super nice. And just such a contrast. It's funny. 好，我们再看 Gregory 的问题，他想要问你哈，他说，你来读吧。
This is from Gregory, who is asking me specifically, how should he... Wait. Oh, I see what he's saying. Okay. Asking me if I had the opportunity to begin learning Chinese from scratch and knowing what I know now, and having had the opportunity to learn from Karen as well, create a specific course of study or course action for myself. Okay, well, I'll address that part first. That's a good question. Knowing what I know now. I'll be honest with you. I never made a specific course of study. And I don't think that's necessary for learning a language, although a lot of people do that. I just got a Chinese teacher, and I started meeting, and I met in person with the teacher. It wasn't online for a good 2 years. And it was just once a week. And then I would go skateboarding, or I would go play frisbee, or go to jiu-jitsu and try to speak it. And that worked pretty well. Pretty well. I mean, I don't have a super high level of Chinese, so maybe a specific course of study might do me better. I guess the difference would probably be that I would just study more instead of just going to class and trying to speak all the time. Yeah, because to be honest, I didn't study that much. And the only time I studied really hard is when I went to take the HSK3 exam. And that was also helpful. Yeah. So that's what I would do differently. Just study more. Probably just do the HSK stuff. Next question he had, I would be interested to know whether I would emphasize any one area of study, or whether there would be areas that he'd definitely pay less attention to the second time around. Well, at one point I tried learning some Chinese songs, like learning how to sing them, play them on the guitar. And that was very enriching for me, and I did learn some words from it, but it also, there's a lot of phrases that you just wouldn't use in conversation, so I wouldn't say that's a super great way to do it. I would say learning from videos and podcasts and stuff would probably be better. That's probably an area I'd do less. The area I would emphasize would probably be grammar, word order, grammar, that kind of thing. Yeah.
好，我个人觉得用电视剧来学语言是一个非常好的方法。歌的话，如果你喜欢听歌唱歌也可以，但是要找到你能听得清楚的歌很难。而且如果你听中文歌，你听不到它的声调，而且歌词也不是正常的句子。所以用歌来学中文是比较有限的。我会推荐用电影或者电视剧来学中文，或者学别的语言也好。
对，中文歌没有声调。
对，没错。好，最后一个问题是 Stephen 的问题。Steven 还是 Stephen？Steven， 好。我让百威来读这个问题。
All right, another question about how to study better. Stephen asks a question, which I will summarize here. I think he's asking, what is the best way to interact with a language partner, I suppose. And also how to build confidence in your speaking, because he wants to expand his conversation beyond just ni hao. Yeah. I've never had like a formal language partner. I've had Chinese teachers, but...
You have Chinese friends?
Chinese friends, but they're friends, not language partners. So
I feel like language partners are kind of like making a new friend.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I actually wonder that myself, Stephen, because I have close Chinese friends whose English is better than my Chinese, and so they always speak English with me. And that can be kind of difficult. And so I think the trick is find someone whose English is worse than your Chinese, and then you will speak Chinese.
Build confidence. Again, my suggestion is start with one person. Some people are very social and extroverted. They love meeting new people. They can talk and start a conversation easily with many different people. I'm not like that. If I study a new language, I need to find a teacher that knows me, and slowly we build a rapport and relationship, and I will build my confidence that way. And once I can speak to a teacher, your teacher should adjust the way they talk as well. Once your language skill improves, they can start to speak faster. They can mumble a little bit. They can use more authentic vocabulary. Then maybe at that point, find a language friend. Make a new friend.
So I have a piece of advice for him then. Assuming you're living in China, Stephen,
He lives in Australia.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, go to your local Chinatown or find some Chinese WeChat group in your area that's based around a specific activity. Probably like a sport or a hobby, right? And then join the meetups to play that sport or do that hobby. And that will automatically immerse you in the language, and you'll always have something to talk about because you'll always be talking about the activity.
Yeah, and also takes your focus away from, now I need to speak the language. That's the main goal, practicing the language.
Or I need to think of something to say. You'll always have something to say because, we're playing volleyball. We're going to talk about volleyball,
Yeah, that's a great idea. We hope our answers are helpful for you guys. Also, thank you guys so much for leaving your questions, and we really enjoy doing this episode.
Yeah, this was a special one. Lots of good advice in there.
好, and in the end, as usual, let's give a shout out, long overdue, to our new members.
好的，
Peter.
谢谢你, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Quartz.
Thank you, Quartz.
I think I'm saying that wrong. Is it Courtney?
It says Quartz.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it might be short for Courtney, but it says
Courtney?
Quartz. Might be, I don't know.
Thank you. Sahar.
Thank you, Sahar.
K.
K. Juan Ray.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Grace.
Thank you, Grace.
John T.
谢谢你, John T.
艾丽.
Thank you, Eileen.
Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Sarah.
谢谢你, Sarah.
Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
Nina.
谢谢 Nina.
Ali Khan.
Thank you, Ali Khan.
Agnes.
Thanks, Agnes.
Gerald. No.
Jared.
Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
Simon.
谢谢你, Simon.
Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Rad.
Thank you, Radha.
Rada?
I guess so.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Vincent.
谢谢你, Vincent. Murchie. Thank you, Murchie.
Murchie? Thank you. Thank you guys so much. 下次再见。
下次再见。